Good morning. We're going to give it just a few minutes to let everyone join, and we will begin the webinar shortly. Thank you. Again, good morning. We're going to give it just another minute, and then we will begin the webinar. Thank you. All right, we'll get started. Good morning and welcome to the DIR Cooperative Contracts New Vendor Orientation. Today is March 23rd, 2023. We'll just go over a couple of quick housekeeping notes. So you can change your by switching between computer audio and phone call. All attendees are muted. And if you wouldn't mind, if you'll click on the raise your hand icon to confirm that the audio and visual are working for you. Great, I see a couple of hands going up. Perfect. And you can go ahead and lower those after you've done that. So a reminder that the chat function is not operating during this, so please submit all of your questions via the Q&A and the meeting controls. It's possible that the chat might work, but we ask that you put any questions you have in the Q&A function. That way we can make sure we get to all of those. And then a copy of the presentation slides will be provided after the webinar. And then with that, our agenda. So for part one, we have our welcome and introduction. We'll go over the hub requirements as well as DIR background, the DIR contract overview, the DIR portal and reporting, contract success. Then we'll answer any questions you might have in that section, and then as well as providing you with some contact information for DIR. We'll then take about a 10-minute break and return for part two, where we will go over the vendor sales reporting and payments. The introduction for your speakers today. We have Ari Longafe. She is the Cooperative Contract Manager Lead. Ann Texter is a Management Analyst with Contract Services. Tony Trans, also with Contract Services, and he's a Business Analyst and the Team Lead. And then we also have Brianna Ballinger. She is a Hub Coordinator with the DIR Hub program. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brianna.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brianna Ballinger. I am a Hub Coordinator with DIR. Next slide. We are going to talk about your Hub subcontracting plan attached to your contract and keeping that up to date and current, along with your progress assessment reports that are required. Every contract has an HSP out there that is included in your contract documents. You can find that on our website on the contract page. You may have not completed this form, but someone within your company has submitted it and it has been approved. You are required to keep that up to date. What that means is, depending on the type of contract, you cannot utilize any subcontractors or resellers unless those have been included on the HSP and submitted to DIR Hub Office for a review and approval. Until we approve that submission of that HSP, you are not allowed to use those subcontractors or resellers. So don't do it. Don't think about it. Our customers will tell on you, and they will stop work and stop payment on whatever it is that you have going on whenever they realize that you have engaged with a subcontractor that is not authorized to be on that project. We've included the DIR Hub email, so you can reach out to any of our team members in the Hub office and they can help assist you completing that HSP. Anytime you need to update that, you can. You can update it every week or every month, however frequently or infrequently you need to. We also have the progress assessment reports, or PARs. In your contract, it states that you will submit a PAR to your customers monthly. That's once you've been issued a PO. PARs should be submitted monthly for the life of the PO. If you have no sales or subcontracting, you are still required to submit a PAR. PARs are due by the 15th of the following month. Please remember the PAR is separate from the vendor sales report. If you do not know what a PAR is, or if you don't know what the form looks like, we've included the comptroller link here for your use. We can help walk you through completing that form for those customers. These documents are owned and controlled by the comptroller's office. We are required to utilize these forms, but we cannot change, manage, or update these forms. We also ask that you copy DIR Hub Office when submitting those forms to your customers, so that way we have verification that you have completed the process, and we ask you to do that for several reasons. One, sometimes the individuals that are required to receive those documents changed agencies. Sometimes they cannot locate it because they may be new, or maybe it went to another individual within the agency and the information wasn't forwarded. We keep a copy of the PAR and we can forward that to those customers if they request it. We've got the DIR Hub email included here for you, and we have the comptroller links attached. So if you need help completing or updating the HSP, you can submit or reach out to any of our team members and we're happy to assist you. Next slide, please. We also have the Mentor Protege program. DIR has implemented a Mentor Protege program that fosters relationships between prime vendors and hubs. This is a voluntary program. As set forth by the Texas Comptroller, the objective of the Mentor Protege program is to provide professional guidance and support to a protege in order to facilitate their growth and development and increase hub contracts and subcontracts with DIR. If you would like additional information regarding the Mentor Protege program and how you can get involved, please visit the Texas Comptroller's website or reach out to DIR Hub's team. And from there, I will turn it over to Ari. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ari Longcafe. I'm the Corporate Contract Manager, and I will go over the DIR background, DIR Corporate Contract overview, and high-level expectations of the contracts. And before I go through there, I want to congratulations to your newly awarded contracts. Welcome to the new vendor orientations for corporate contracts. For those of you that join us today for refreshing, welcome as well. The slides in front of you show the pie chart, but before I go there, I want to introduce why DIR. So DIR is the authorized state agency to monitor and approve information technologies procurements for the state of Texas government agency. The state Texas agency must utilize the DIR contracts unless the agency first obtained the formal DIR exemption to purchase technology products or services from non-DIR vendors or non-DIR contracts. So let's go over a little bit of these high level of this pie chart. The pie chart on the right is the policy and planning. These DIR sections provide a state-wide technology priorities for Texas governments, such as they provide policy, reports, planning. They help create roadmaps for future state agency goals, and they provide guidance on implementing IT for the Texas government. On the pie chart on the left is the Shared Technology Contracts, also called STS. This program allows the DIR customer or state agency to outsource infrastructures, technologies, managements, security services, the state official digital government program that help STS customer provide simple, convenience, digital service for Texans and government business. It is administering and manage activity using the multi-vendor outsourcing model that include the set of managed IT services that can be used to accelerate the service delivery. An example of STS, data center service, or what we call DCS, managed security service, or MSS, and Texas.gov. The pie on the bottom is the cooperative contract, which is we mainly will focus on. It is the do-it-yourself model. They are maintain over 700 cooperative contracts under these models. The contracts offer technologies, products, and services, including hardware, software, staffing service, maintenance, and other services related to IT procurements with high customer demand. Next slide, please. The DIR eligible customer includes Texas state agency, county, local government, fire department, volunteer fire department, hospital, public education entity of all size that listed on these slides. DIR contract cover a variety of information technology product and services and are constantly expanding to meet the need of our customer. The eligible of DIR customers are defined by the Texas legislature and are subject to updates. Public entity outside of Texas are also eligible to purchase under cooperative contract when they establish an interstate cooperative contract, or what we call ICC, with DIR. For more information outside of for out-of-state customer listed and customer eligibility is available on the DIR contract website. Next slide, please. The slides in front of you is the DIR threshold requirements that apply to state agency only. For the contract or the purchasing that is up to $50,000, the state agency is required to at least the state agency may award a contract or PO to DIR contract, one DIR contract or vendor, reseller of their choice. Apology for my stutter there. If the purchase is over $50,000 but less than $1 million, the state agency must request pricing from at least 3 DIR vendors or reseller of the applicable contract category. For the purchase that is between 1 million but less than 5 million, the state agency must request pricing from at least 6 DIR vendor or reseller on the list. For the contract or purchase that is over 5 million but less than 10 millions, the Texas state agency have the option to use the DIR cooperative contract program. If they choose to use the DIR cooperative contract program, they must at least send to at least 6 DIR vendor on the list. For the term of the contract that is exceed 10 millions, the Texas state agency may not utilize the DIR contract and should handle the solicitation or procurements on their open market through their own solicitation process. These threshold requirement is applied to state Texas agency only. That does not apply to the volunteer customer. Next slide, please. These slides cover the SOW requirements. For DIR service contract, a statement of work is required for a state agency to submit to DIR for review. Any SOW with an estimate of over $50,000, a state agency must follow DIR SOW review process. Listed on the slides as example of the contract that includes SOW for DIR to review. Example would be DBITS contract, end user IT outsourcing, cybersecurity service, comprehensive web, and so on and so forth that listed on these slides. Next slide, please. SOW review is not required for higher ed of any size, local government, assistant organizations, or outside of the state. These are not required for DIR to review their SOW. The statement of work also not required for IT staffing unless they issue an SOW. It's not required to review support agreement, maintenance agreements, hardware or software contracts. Next slide, please. The SOW process is drafted by the state agency and submit to DIR for review. DIR have 30 days to review. For expedite SOW, DIR has 5 days to review and approve. Once DIR approve, the state agency will solicit their solicitation to the vendor. And once they select the vendor that they want to work with, after the negotiations, they must submit the final SOW to DIR for review and approve. DIR has 3 business days to approve their final SOW and sign and return to the agency. The agency will issue the purchase order to the DIR vendor. All amendments or changes must be approved by DIR as well. The agency must post all the SOW to their website. The SOW is not valid and the vendor will not get paid until DIR signs the SOW. For more detail about SOW process, outlined on the DIR website and in tag 212. All right, let's see. Next, please. All vendors, including subcontractors, are required to complete the cybersecurity training if they will have access to the state computer, state system, or database at the state agency. A list of certification program is on the DIR website. Each vendor will need to complete this training during the term of the contract, including renew period. There are 2 low or no cost options. The new list will be posted on August 31st of each year. For additional detailed information, please refer to the DIR website, and the link is listed on these slides. Next, please. Contract structures. Your DIR contract will likely consist of multiple documents. It is important to become familiar with the detail of your contract. The contract will consist of a variety of appendixes documents that are important to refer to when working with the customer. The DIR contract landing page for your contract will consist of these documents shown on this slide for customer to review. The contract documents outline the term of the contract, the products, services offering, the fees, internet access requirements, contract notification, and exception if there are any. The Appendix A, standard term and conditions, outline the specific requirement of the contract. It is often referred to when seeking details on the contract's exceptions, within the contract. For example, what should be contained on the vendor website. You can find these information on the contract appendix A, term and conditions. Contract appendix C is pricing index. These outline what is allowed to be sold on the contract and the discount that should be offered to the customer at the minimum. With many of these services contract included, the statement of works appendix is included as well. Sometimes additional appendixes documents are necessary due to the nature of the contract. Example, Appendix D, service agreements, Appendix E, master operating lease agreement, Appendix F, statement of works, that's shown on this slide. If any time these contract documents need to be changed, please contact your contract manager so that a formal amendment can be processed. Next slide. In general, the contract document will outline the term of the contracts, such as initial term, including any auto renew options and or extensions. The contract also includes any limitation on changes to the products and service offering, deliverable requirements of the contract, and additional detail regarding the use of the order fulfillers, pricing, sales report, admin fees, conflicting term, or additional term. Any authorized exception, if there are any, will list on the contract documents. We ask that you keep track of your contract milestone important dates as they are outlined in the contract documents. Contact your contract manager regarding any questions or those date approach. Next. Appendix A, standard term and conditions. They are consist of 15 sections and generally have priority over almost all the vendor documents. The Appendix A contains some key terms for you to know and understand. We would like to point attention to the following sections. Section 4, general provisions that includes data locations, which states that all of the customer's data and all derivatives from it should remain in and be accessed in always and exclusively within the United States unless customer is expressly notified and agree which data set from which country or from what period of time. Section 7 of the Appendix A, term and conditions, mention that contract fulfillments and promotion, including website compliance. Section 8 mention the contract's tax exempt. The customer utilized cooperative contract are exempt from the state's sales tax. Purchase order, DIR customer will contact the vendor directly to request a quote. Vendor must include the DIR contract number on the quotations. The vendor must include the MSRP or list price, the customer price on the quotations. The customer will send the purchase order directly to the contacting vendor. Customer purchase order or agreement may survive the contract, the DIR contract, as long as the purchase order is issued on or before the contract expires. This is outlined in Appendix A, Section 4. Other provisions in the Appendix A, Section 9, states that the DIR staff, DIR designee, state, or federal auditor may come in and audit you on this contract. Section 9 outlines the accurate and time submissions of the report and the payment of the admin fees. Section 10 outlines the use of the subcontractors and the criminal background check. Please note that some of our customer may require criminal background check before starting the work of their contract. Section 11, contract enforcement and termination process. It is important as the vendor that you get familiar with the contract and the term and condition of the contract. Next slide, please. It is the vendor responsibility to sell, to market, to promote the products and services available under your contract. The DIR vendor should use its best effort to ensure the potential customer are made aware of the existing of your contract. Internet access to the vendor contract and pricing information is required to activate within 30 calendar days of the effective award dates of the contract. The vendor is required to establish and maintain a contract web page specifically to the products and services award under the contract that are clearly distinguishable from other non-DIR contract offering on the vendor website. DIR may cancel the contract without penalty if vendor that do not meet the web page requirement. I repeat that. DIR may cancel the contract without penalty if the vendor that do not meet the website requirements. Next page, please. The Appendix A and the contract outline specific requirement on the vendor website. Vendor must submit the URL link to the contract manager within 30 calendar days from the contract award date. The contract manager will review the vendor website to ensure all elements are met and will contact you for any concern. It is the vendor responsibility to maintain the vendor website during the full term of the contract and to ensure that all elements remain intact and are updated within the current information. Vendor is required to provide timely written notice of any change to the URL link. Other information needed to access the site and or maintain the link within the site. These requirements are outlined in the contract Appendix A, Section 7. Next. Section 10 of the Appendix A outlines the vendor responsibility for the contracting business in Texas. These include the legislative mandate that are related to vendor certification and protections of customer information. This section also includes the insurance requirements. It is the vendor responsibility to keep and maintain the insurance coverage outlined in the contract for the full term and for the contract, including any extension period. Public information or new release pertaining to the contract should not be made by the vendor without prior written approval from DIR. The state government entities are subject to the Public Information Act, and the vendor will be asked to comply with the requirements to make information accessible to the public outlined in the contract. As a reminder, vendor must ensure that the cybersecurity training is completed and renewed as required by any officer, employees, or subcontractor that will have access to the state computer or database for the agency or institutions of higher ed. Next. Keep information current. Communicate regularly with your DIR contract manager. All change requests for updates to the contract must report to the DIR contract managers. An example would be if you want change with the Appendix C pricing index, if you want to change of your point of contact, company name change, product change, emerging technology that need to be added on. Contact your contract managers. You'll find that on our website. These slides concludes the DIR background and DIR contract overview. I will hand over to the contract service team. Tony?
Hey, good morning. Sorry about that. Find my mute button. My name is Tony Tran. I'm a business analyst here in the Contract Services Division. For this part, it will be a brief overview of your vendor sales reporting and admin fees. We have a second part that's dedicated that will be following this first part. So we ask that any of your staff that will be responsible for either vendor sales reporting or remittance of admin fees to join us in our second part that will be much more detailed and joined with my coworker and texter. Next slide, please. The vendor sales reporting. What are vendor sales reports and when are they due? Your sales reports are due for each contract that you have with DIR, and they are due monthly. Each month, even if 0 sales are reported. This is a requirement in your contract. Your sales reports have to be submitted between the 1st and the 15th of the following month. Sales to include on your VSR are determined by your invoice date, not the date of delivery, not when the customer requested that procurement. It is based on the invoice date on the PO. In your contract, you have a late language clause that says that vendors may be fined $100 for each day the sales report is late, and it can go up to $1,000 per month per contract. DIR reserves the right to enforce this fee if there are 3 late reports in a rolling 12-month period. So if you have 3 late reports at any point between 12 months, this late language clause can be turned on and you will be charged $100 for each day that you are late. Consistent late reporting may also result in the suspension or termination of your contract. That information does not go away. That information is taken into consideration when your contract is either coming up for renewal, or if it's really bad, it might end up suspending or terminating your contract. So be sure to not be late on your vendor sales reporting. Next slide, please. So accessing the VSR portal, once your contract is established, an email will be sent to the sales report contacts with login credentials from vsr.support@dir.texas.gov. So be on the lookout for that email with your login credentials. You can submit your sales reports through the vendor sales reporting portal. If you go to dir.texas.gov, our homepage, there's a sign-in button at the top right-hand corner. You'll click on that, and if you scroll down a little bit, there will be a link called the VSR portal link. Once you click on that, you'll log in. Your credentials will have a temporary password, and at that point, you will be in the VSR portal. Each of your contracts may have up to 5 contacts listed under your contract that can access the VSR portal. We ask that you make sure that your backups and your backups are registered, and you can contact your contract manager to have these people set up, just because we know that people will go on vacation and things of that nature or be sick, and that doesn't absolve your responsibility of reporting. So make sure that you have your backups listed. And again, for each of if you have multiple contracts, you're going to have those people listed under those contracts in order to see it in the VSR portal to report under. So if you have multiple contracts with DIR, make sure that their emails are listed under each of those contracts. Okay, next slide. So admin fees. How do you know what your admin fees are? In your contract, you have listed what your admin fee percentage is. That admin fee percentage will be calculated against the amount of eligible sales that you have reported. when you report your contract, so let's take a look at the example below. If you have sales in the month of March, in the month of April, you'll submit your report. So you have April 1st through April 15th to upload your VSR through the VSR portal. We're processing it on our side, and then sometime in the month of May, typically by the 10th of May, you will get an email saying your final admin fee is this amount. At that point, you can remit payment to DIR, and that is due by the 25th. So again, you should receive that email between the 1st and the 10th of that month following the month that you submitted that VSR. Admin fees can also be paid via ACH payment or bank transfers or by check. We prefer ACH payments, and we'll get into more detail in the second part. But those are your two methods for submitting your payments to DIR. Next slide, please. Okay, and with that, I will pass it back off to Ari to talk about your contract success.
Hello, next slide, please. Texas RAM certifications. Texas Senate Bill 475 define the need for the Texas Risk and Authorization of Management Program, also called Texas RAM. This is to ensure that the cloud service are secure for the Texas government services, state agency, higher ed, and public junior college. The Texas RAM program went live on January 1st, 2022. Please refer to the DIR website for published information, guidelines, requirements, including some of the informative webinar. The Texas RAM policy is based upon the federal RAM's guideline, but if you have a specific questions about the Texas RAM, we are providing you with the email address and contact information on this slide. Next slide, please. All right. What we expect from our vendor. We expect you to know the contracts in and out, know what the requirements are for compliance, know the system and process the payments and reporting, and follow the rule and protocols. If the vendor rule change, please let your contract manager know. And if the new vendor contract managers is coming on board with your company, it is recommend they attend the vendor orientations and become familiar with the DIR requirements of the contracts. Know your customer by engaging with them, being responsive to their requests, and target opportunities to enhance their IT needs. Make the interactions effectively by establishing a good line of communication with the customer. Market your marketing plan. Take advantage of our opportunities that DIR offer through the events. Also be aware and allow the DIR source of communication like our vendor newsletter. That's what we expect from you to make a success. Next slide, please. Vendors are encouraged to market their contract to DIR eligible customer. Here are some of the suggestions that you can take advantage of the opportunities to market your contract, like attending trade shows, participating in conference or DIR sponsor events. If you would like to use the DIR logo on any press release, brochure, or handouts, it must first be approved by DIR. Next slide, please. On these slides are some of the DIR resources you will need during the term of the contracts. Contact your contract manager assigned to you on that contract if you have any questions. So these are the email address for you to contact during the life of the contracts. The vendor sales report is listed here on the slides. Admin fees for payments, hub informations email is also in here. Outreach and local use. VSR portal login assistant. All these. I believe after these presentations, you will get a copy of these slides. I will turn to this conclude my presentation for today. I will turn it to the contract service team.
Thanks, Ari. I can take over for fraudulent email.
Thank you.
Next slide, please. Okay, so fraudulent emails. We want all of our vendors to be aware that there are bad actors out there at all times. They will try to take advantage of any of our vendors or even our customers by trying to scam them. So again, vendors are susceptible to scams or frauds at any time. Bad actors will impersonate state agencies or other eligible customers. What we've seen is they will submit a request for quote to a vendor, and the vendor will respond with a quote, and that bad actor will issue a PO, and everything will look very authentic, but there's usually a few signs that something's off. Either the email address is off a little bit, or there's typos. So really, you have to make sure that you're reviewing everything with a keen eye. And you'll see the bad actor will issue that PO and to the vendor and request expedited delivery. We've seen in the past where a pallet of laptops would be delivered to a warehouse and had nothing to do with the customer, and that vendor lost out on a lot of product just because they weren't being careful. It's really important that when you get quote requests or things of that nature, you can follow up with your customer, pick up the phone, talk to them on the phone and verify that quote request is correct, or that before that PO is cut. So really try to identify when scams are happening, and to report it back to DIR if possible, just so that we're aware of it. Again, look for email addresses, misspellings. Even our Chief Procurement Officer, Herschel Decker, they impersonate him all the time. Take a look at our email structure. DIR's email structure is always going to be first name dot last name at dir.texas.gov. So be aware of naming conventions or naming structures for agencies. And again, pick up the phone, speak to the representative at that agency or your customer, and just ask questions. Ask some verifying questions that can help identify who they are. And again, reach out to DIR for any assistance if you do either feel like there may be a scam email or that something might be happening. Reach out to DIR for any assistance. Okay. And with that, if there are any questions, if you submitted through your Q&A panel, any one of our panelists can help answer your questions if you have anything from the first part of our webinar.
Tony, this is Tom. I'd like to add one thing to let vendors know that there are signs available that we have that say DIR vendor, and we can send you those DIR vendor signs for you to use at conferences that you attend throughout the year. That allows attendees to know that you are a DIR vendor. You can display that on your table booth. So you can contact us and request one of those signs at any time for you to take to trade shows throughout the year.
Awesome.
At this time, I'm not seeing any questions in the Q&A, and that's fine if you want to continue putting those in. We'll go ahead and move to a break. So it's 9:45 right now. I guess Tony, and if we're good starting back up at say 9:55, then we'll take a 10-minute break.
That works for me. I do see a couple of questions coming in.
Oh, okay.
The first question I see is, can y'all share your ACH information? we would like to move off of physical checks. We will explain that in great detail in the second part, including where you can get that ACH request form. The second question I'm seeing is establishing an ICC a fairly quick process? I don't know about quick. It does have to go through a formal process on our side. I don't know what that average time looks like. I can ask around and see what that looks like. And the last question I see is, can we pick up the DIR vendor sign next week at the Information Security Forum?
Tom, are you planning to take, or is the agency planning to take any over there? Do you know?
Kyle, this is Teresa.
Nope.
Yes, we will be sending some of those vendor signs over to ISF.
Awesome. Thank you, Teresa. Okay, Tony, unless I'm missing any, I don't see any additional questions at the moment. So we'll go ahead and take that break, and then we will come back at 9:55.
Sounds good.
Thanks. All right, we'll get started here with the second part. I'm going to turn it over to, I believe, Anne and Tony.
Yep. Thank you, Kyle. Again, my name is Tony Tran. I'm a business analyst here in the Contract Services Division, and I will be joined with Ann Texter. She will get into the specifics of your VSR reporting in just a bit. Next slide. So for this part, who should be attending? We expect the those that will be the vendor sales contacts, those that will be submitting your VSRs, the vendor contract manager, and any accounts payable representatives, those that would be cutting the checks or the payments for admin fees. Next slide. The objectives of this orientation, we hope at the end of this presentation that all the vendor sales contacts will be able to understand the VSR timeline, navigate the VSR portal, correctly upload a compliant VSR, troubleshoot basic errors, understand how to remit payment or payments, and know how to get assistance with any of the staff here at DIR. We do have a VSR manual that has a lot of this information outlined on our website, and it can be accessed if you go to our DIR website and look up vendor sales reporting or admin fees on the search bar. There's a page there that's dedicated to a lot of this information, including that manual. Next slide. So understanding the importance of your vendor sales reports, the VSRs provide data for spend analytics that includes the total value of a contract or a contract type, the types of goods and services that's purchased by our customers, who our primary customers are and what their spend looks like, and the cost savings through the contracts, as opposed when the customers are purchasing through any of these co-op contracts, what cost savings that are being realized by them. And most importantly, this information informs state budget decisions and features legislation that directly impacts our vendors and customers. So it's really important that the information that you submit to us in your VSRs are complete, accurate, and timely. Next slide. So your contractual obligations, we talked about this in the first part, but just a recap, your reporting is a contractual responsibility, and it's outlined in your Appendix A, Standard Terms and Conditions. Again, 3 late sales reports in a rolling 12-month period will result in the contract being flagged as eligible for late fees. And those late fees are $100 per day, up to $1,000 per contract per month. And those penalties remain for the duration of the contract. At no point will, if you have your late flag turned on, will it be turned back off. So it's really important to stay on top of this and don't allow for late sales to come through. Late and or non-compliant reporting may result in the suspension or termination of your contract. So again, we don't want it to get to that point, but this is a contractual responsibility for you. Next slide. So the portal, what are the vendor sales reports and what do they do? So all active contracts must submit a sales report for each contract each month, even if there are 0 sales. And we can talk about what 0 sales reports look like, which are extremely simple, but you do have to submit to meet that obligation. Your reports are submitted between the 1st and the 15th of the following month, and the report has to be in accepted status. So if you upload it and it fails, or if you upload it and it says that there are errors, that does not meet your contractual obligation. It has to be in an accepted status to be compliant. So again, you can upload as early as the 1st of the month, and then you have up until the 15th. What sales to include, those are going to be determined by the invoice date on those POs. So make sure that any of the POs that have the date between the 1st and the 31st, or whatever that month is, make sure that that is what gets onto your VSR. Next slide. So let's look at an example of what vendor sales reporting will look like. So let's take the month of March. Any sales between the 1st and the 30th of the month of March, those that have an invoice date between that in the month of March will be included on your report. In the month of April, you'll have from the 1st through the 15th to upload your report. We recommend that you upload it as early as possible to make sure that you have enough time to troubleshoot those errors or to work with Anne to resolve those errors. So that is due by the 15th. Through the end of the month, our team is looking at it at all reports that reported to DIR, and we're cleaning up those reports and making sure that those sales are eligible. And then sometime in the month of May, usually by May 10th, you will get an email that will say what your final admin fee is. The people that get that email will be the person who uploaded the report and also the contract manager, if they are different. And when you get that email, you have until the 25th of that month to remit payments. Okay, next slide. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to Ann Texter, and she's going to get into the specifics of your vendor sales reporting.
Thanks, Tony. Good morning. I'm Ann Texter. I am a management analyst for the Contract Services Department, and I manage the vendor sales reporting portal. Next slide, please. So VSR portal access and account management. It's important that you guys start paying attention to your emails. Once the contract is established, an email with login credentials is going to be sent out from vsr.support@dir.texas.gov. Check your spam, check your junk mail. Another thing to pay attention to is that when the contract was established, email addresses may have been pulled from your RFO submission, and those may not be the correct emails that you want to have available to log into the portal and submit those reports. So what I am going to recommend is that as soon as possible, today, tomorrow, Monday, it may be a couple of months until you have to submit a report, but do this now. Reach out to your contract manager, ask them who is set up as a sales report contact under that contract, and make sure that you get that set to the right person. Also, if you have a previous contract and you're already set up to log into the portal, you need to make sure that you're now set up under the new contract. If you log in and you do your drop-down menu of contract numbers and the new contract number does not appear, that is because your email address is not set up under that new contract. So make sure to reach out to your contract managers now, as soon as possible, and get those correct and ready to go so that you can upload your reports timely. We highly recommend that you guys have more than one sales report contact set up. Each of those contacts need to be set up under all contracts that you're going to be uploading sales reports for. If you're previously set up to log in, you're not going to get an email with a temporary password. You will simply just be able to see the new contract number in your drop-down menu. So if you're brand new, then be on the lookout for that email with that temporary password. Each month when we close sales, as Tony mentioned before, if the final admin fee email is going to go out, and that's going to go to the person your company has set up as the vendor contract manager for that contract. And it's going to go to the email address of the person who logged in and uploaded the report. Next slide, please. So accessing the portal, we recommend that you use Chrome or Firefox. If you are new and you get that temporary password, again, do this way before you've got to submit a report. You can go and make sure you can log in. There will be a button after you put in your username and temporary password that says VSR vendors. Do not click on that yet when you're ready to change your password. So in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see your name and there'll be a little arrow and there'll be a drop-down menu. and it'll say change password. So when you're ready to put in your own personal password, that's what you're going to do. Those instructions are in the BSR manual, where you can reach out to me if you need help with that. Then once you're ready to go into the portal, you'll click on VSR vendors link. Make sure that your browsers have the pop-ups enabled. If they are not enabled, you will not be able to get in. And if you have if you've done everything I've said to do and you're still having problems, you can email vsr.support@dir.texas.gov for help getting logged in. And make sure that you always include your DIR contract number so they know exactly how to assist you. Next slide, please. Once you get logged in, this is kind of a quick overview of the dashboard that you're going to see in the portal. There is a bulletin board on the dashboard that has some useful information. If we have changes or we need to put out an alert, check that bulletin board each time you log in and read it. Just make sure that there may not be some new message. I'm sorry. On the left-hand side, there are some sections where you can click. The first one is going to be where to download the VSR template. We recommend that you download a new template each time. There are 3 different templates. There are staffing services vendors template, telecom vendors template, and then the cooperative VSR template. In each of those downloads, you have the option to use an XLS, an XLSX, or a .csv, which we ask our vendors that have like 1,000 or more rows to go ahead and use. The next button on the section on the dashboard, I should say, is going to be upload VSR. That's pretty self-explanatory. Once you get in there, your vendor name will be populated. You'll have to select your contract type, depending on what contract you have. If you have more than one type of contract, there'll be a couple, like for example, it may say cooperative and staffing. So if you're getting ready to upload your cooperative report, then select cooperative. Then below that, you will have a drop-down menu for your contract number. So again, make sure that you are listed under all those contracts so you can see all of them in that drop-down menu. And then you'll hit upload. I think there's another slide that will show you all this information. There's also a button to check for 0 sales report. Next on the dashboard is the history section. This is a really important place for you to go. Once you've uploaded your report, I recommend that you immediately go to the history section. It's going to show you that your report is in a submitted status. You can refresh that page and see what happens next. It's either going to be accepted, rejected, or in pending user action. And again, your goal is an accepted report by the 15th. The history contains all of your previous uploads and statuses. You can go out there and manipulate the dates you want to see. If you need to look at some older reports that you downloaded, you can do that. You can download the reports that you downloaded, etc. And then the last section on the dashboard is a lookup screen where you can look up customer names, brands, etc. You can use the customer name lookup to find naming conventions. So the system is very specific. You must put the customer name on your report exactly as it appears in our database. So this lookup tool is a good place to go. Having said that, that tool will show you every customer name that has ever been uploaded. So that doesn't mean that all of the customer names out there may be eligible. So I recommend that if you need assistance with a customer name, reach out to me at ict.sales every time so that we can work through making sure that you get that correct customer name identified and on your report. Next slide, please. So the key is to being successful with your sales reporting. Start as soon as you possibly can. So like we stated before, Sales reports are based on invoice dates only. They're not based on when the customer pays you. They're not based on when services were rendered. They're not based on when product was shipped. It's invoice date only. So you have a whole month to send out your invoices, and that following month, starting on the first day, you can start uploading your sales reports. While we are in the process of closing out a previous month, the portal is still going to say that we are accepting reports for that previous month. Just ignore that, because once the first day of that following month hits, you can start uploading those new reports. So there's no need to wait until the 15th. And we recommend that you do it at least 4 or 5 days before the 15th, if possible. That way, if you have any errors, rejections that you need help with, we can get that taken care of before the 15th. Do not alter the template. Do not change any of the headers. There are tabs on the template. Do not change the names of any of those tabs. You simply need to fill in the sales report template as required. If you change any of that, the report will not load. It will give you an error message to either contact DIR that you've uploaded an invalid template. In the template, as I spoke just previously, there are tabs. There is a tab called Instructions Examples that gives you a guide on each and every column and how it needs to be filled out and what formats need to be used. So make sure that you reference those instructions examples. And we also will give you a link to the VSR manual that has all of that information as well. Make sure that you follow all of the formatting conventions. And most importantly, always be sure that your report has been accepted. If it is not in an accepted status, by the 15th and the 16th rolls around, your report is late. Once your report has been uploaded, the history screen is going to show you an estimated admin fee. That is a good place to check and make sure that the sales report you loaded has the correct dollar amount. It's also going to give you a total dollar amount. So make sure that if you thought you were uploading a sales report for $20,000, make sure that total on that history screen says $20,000. If it's different, reach out to us. We'll help you get it figured out. But again, that is an estimated admin fee that is out there, and you do not pay that. You must wait until we close and you get that close email with your final admin fee. Next slide, please. So as I talked about before, there are different statuses for once your report is uploaded. The person uploading the report, you're going to get emails each time you upload a report. You're going to get an email back to you saying that it's been submitted. And then after that, and it goes through the system, you're going to get one of the following. You're either going to get an email that says your report has been rejected, it is in pending user action, or it has been accepted. If it's rejected or in pending user action, go out to your history screen and you can look at your error file for a rejected report and make corrections on your report, and then you'll have to re-upload it. If it's in pending user action, it's probably because you either have a customer name that is not in the right convention, or a brand name perhaps, or a reseller name, or you're reporting past sales. And again, all this information is in the VSR manual, but we'll be going over it. But anyway, you will get an email for each status that your report is in, but use that history screen to pay attention to what status your report is in. Anytime you need assistance with your sales report, this email is very important. It's ict.sales@dir.texas.gov. That goes to a special box for the VSR portal. I manage that box. If I am out, I have coworkers that can go in there and check your messages and help you out. So make sure that you take note of that email address and use it. Next slide, please. So I mentioned before that we have the VSR manual. There is a link to that on the DIR website. It is an extremely comprehensive guide. There is a section for each type of contract, how to fill out your report, how to make your payments. And my favorite part is the error messages, which is kind of shown here on the slide. There is a list of error messages. So you can, if your report is rejected and you download the error file, there's going to be these error messages in that column for each row that has a problem. If you're not sure what that means, you can go to your manual and type in invalid brand or invalid acquisition type or invalid city. And this portion of the manual is going to tell you why you got that message and how to fix it. That does not mean you cannot reach out to me. You can always reach out to me for assistance. But this is just also a really good quick guide that will help you and give you an idea of what needs to be corrected. Next slide, please. Again, the sales report must be completed as instructed. This shows you where the instructions examples tab is on your template. And on the right here is kind of a quick snapshot of what that looks like. It's going to give you information as to how to fill out each column. It will tell you what we require. You may or may not be required to fill out every column. Some they may say, if you don't have this information, you can leave it blank, or if you don't have this information, some columns require you to put N/A. The instructions examples tab will tell you exactly what you need to do. There is also a tab for DBITs product types. If you do not have a deliverable-based IT contract, column I can be left blank and you don't need to use that DBITs product types tab. But again, don't alter your template, don't delete anything. You're just going to be filling it in. There's also a section on the administrative fee and a copy of the remittance form. You can download it from the website or you can copy and paste it from your sales report template. Next slide, please. Also in that instructions examples tab, for the there is a guide here as to when you need to report sales and for what month. So for example, right here, I guess we're getting ready to do March. So your March sales report, your submitted reporting month, which you will fill in cell B3 with, will be 2023-03. And when do you upload the March sales report? Between April 1st and April 15th. So this is a good guide if you feel a little lost as to what, when, where, and how to upload and when to submit. You can refer back to this. Next slide, please. Your DIR contract page on the DIR website is an extremely useful tool for submitting your reports. I would definitely, if you are the person who is going to be filling out the VSR sales report, bookmark this page. It's going to contain the DIR contract number, your vendor name. It's going to let you know who your DIR contract your DIR contract manager is. It's also going to list the vendor contract manager that your company has set up. Note that, this is where our customers also go to get information on your contract and to reach out to you for sales. So make sure that vendor contact that you have out there is who you want it to be. It also, okay, so back to reporting. This page will list if you have brands listed under your contract, if you have resellers listed under your contract, they're all going to be on this page. When you put that information in your sales report, it has to match exactly as it appears on this page. So that is a really good thing to do. Go to the brands, open that up, that section up, and then you'll see how your brands are listed. And that way you can put them on your report correctly as for resellers, subcontractors, etc. This page also contains a copy of your contract documents. So if you need to refer to your pricing page or terms and conditions, it's all out there on the DIR contract page. You can get to it by going to the DIR website, and in the search DIR bar, just put in the last 4 digits of your contract number. You could put in 4296, hit search, and it's going to take you to a link for this page. But again, I recommend that you bookmark this page and use it when you're filling out your sales report. Next slide, please. So on the sales report template, you're always going to fill in the header information, which is cells B1, B2, and B3. B1 is your vendor name. It must match exactly as it appears on your contract page, which we just looked at, and or on the VSR portal itself. Your company name will be there too. So if your company name is Vendor A Inc., and then the contract page says Vendor A, comma, Inc., period, make sure that you have all of that to match exactly. If you forget a comma, if you forget a period, if it doesn't have a period, you're going to get an error message that your vendor name doesn't match. So make sure that you always match that. Put your full contract number, DIR-CPO- for example, that's like 8888, or in the picture there, 9999. Just make sure it's the full number. The submitted reporting month, it must be in that format. It must be year and month. So in this example, it's 2023-01. You can't put January 1st, 2023. It's going to error. So make sure you follow the formatting convention. On your template, there are going to be, on the co-op template, there are 30 columns. There's columns A through AD. You may not, again, like I said, you may not be required to fill out all of those columns, but that instructions examples tab and the VSR manual are going to help you determine which ones you do need to fill in and how you need to fill them in. And again, don't modify any of the column headers. Don't change anything, just fill out the template. Make sure that you download a clean template each time. If there's not enough lines for all the sales that you have, don't worry, you can add extra lines in the middle. That's not really like altering, that's just, you can just insert as many rows as you need. At the bottom of the template, there's going to be a row that says total. And do not delete that row that says total. Don't write over that row. That word total is a stopper for the system to know to stop checking the rows of sales that you've uploaded. So make sure that that's always at the bottom. So if you need to add lines, just insert them in between. Next slide, please. So some of the columns that you're going to fill in, column B is going to be the customer name, and we kind of went through that. It has to be exactly the way it appears in the portal. For example, DIR's customer name is Texas Department of Information Resources. So as long as you have that, you're not going to get an error for the customer name. If you put DIR or Texas DIR, it's going to error. So make sure that you use that lookup tab, or you reach out to ict.sales, that would be me, for assistance in making sure that those names are correct. The next column, column C, is the reference number column. That's where you're going to put your customer's purchase order number or their reference number, any number that ties the official documentation of that sale back to you and the customer, that comes from the customer. The sales period in column D is going to be in the same format as the submitted reporting month. That needs to match the invoice date, month, and year. So if you're reporting a March invoice, then that sales period will be 2023-03. You have the ability to report past sales if something got forgotten or corrections need to be made. So for each row of a different month, that's not the current submitted reporting month. Again, that sales period has to match the invoice date, month, and year. The order date is extremely important. So the order date is the original date that the order was officially placed with your company. For state agencies, that's going to be the date on the purchase order. If you're a company that does business for in services where you're going to be invoicing that customer for a period of time, so like each month for 2 years, that order date is going to stay the same every time you submit sales for that customer until that purchase order is done. So if they gave you a purchase order on January 1st, 2023, for the next 2 years that you're invoicing them each month, the order date will always be January 1st, 2023. Product description, try your best not to make it generic, make it match the descriptive listed on the purchase order and the invoice for audit purposes. There is a character limit on the product description page. I'm sorry, column, which is like 150 characters that includes spaces. In the instructions examples tab, we also ask that you don't use like formula characters. So make sure that when you're filling out the product description, that it matches and that it doesn't exceed the 150 character mark. If it does, your report's not going to load. Brand, the brand column again, so you must list your brands in that column for each row of sales, and they must match what's on the DIR contract page. If you find that there is a brand that should be listed and is not listed, or you think that something needs to be added, etc., you're always going to need to talk with your contract manager about that before any changes or updates can be made. Next slide, please. There is a section for the deliverable-based vendors called product type. It's column I. If you are not a DBITS vendor, then you're going to leave column I blank. If you are a DBITS vendor, then you will need to refer to your contract. And again, on your DIR contract page, it's going to tell you which of those product types you were awarded and which to use. If you have questions about that, just reach out to me at the ict.sales email and we can discuss it. But if you don't have a DBITS contract, you're just going to leave column I blank. Next slide, please. The last 3 columns of the sales report template, it's going to depend upon the type of contract you were awarded. If your contract is based off of discount price, then you're going to fill in columns A, B, and AC. You're going to put your contract discount percentage, and then you're going to put the actual discount percentage that you gave the customer. So what you give the customer must either equal what's in the contract or it can be a greater discount. And if that is the case, then you will leave column AD blank. And all of this is in that instructions examples template. If your contract is based on price, then you're only going to need to fill in column AD. And you're going to be leaving AB and AC blank. So check with your contract manager if you are not sure right now which type of contract. You can go to your DIR contract page and look at your pricing. That will give you a lot of information on that. But again, these are the last 3 columns of the template. So you're either going to be doing ABAC, and you're going to leave AD blank, or you're just going to fill in AD and leave the other 2 blank. Next slide, please. Some of the most common errors that happen invalid customer name. It will say invalid customer. That just refers to the name is incorrect. The system is not capable at that point of telling you whether or not a customer is ineligible. We look all of that information up and have reports that give us that information when we're doing our close. Invalid brand name, it's the same as the customer name. It has to match exactly as it appears in system. Ineligible order date. So this is what I was talking about before, that purchase order date. It must be a date during the time frame that your contract was active. So let's say your contract expires, but that you do services and that purchase order extends beyond the expiration date of your contract. So you're going to continue billing that customer for another 6 months, for example. Make sure that that order date is that original order date. If you use a date that is after the contract expired, you're going to get an error. Invalid ship date. There are rules for the ship dates. It must be on or after the order date and or on or before the invoice date. So if you get an invalid ship date error, you need to make sure that it follows these rules. If you have any questions, again, just reach out. I can help you. If you do, oh, sorry. And then one of the next common errors is an invalid extended price. So always make sure that the quantity, I think that's column M times column N, which is going to be your unit price, equals column O. You can put a formula in there in column O that says M times N. If you're working with pricing that requires some decimal places, it might be a little bit tricky. The instructions examples tab will let you know which columns you can have longer decimal places to use for your pricing. But in the end, column O has to match M times N or it's going to error. And again, like I said before, there's a comprehensive glossary of those error descriptions in the VSR manual that come in really handy. Next slide, please. Possible reasons that you may get this error message. It says an error occurred while processing the data. Please retry. If the error persists, contact DIR. Just some possible quick reasons that you might be able to resolve on your own. Invalid template, something's been changed in the template. Okay. Also, when you get an error, let's say your report is rejected, the system puts out that error file. The error file contains an additional column. So like I said before, for the co-op template, there are 30 columns, A through AD. On your error file, it's going to add column AE, and it's going to list each error for each row that has problems. Go ahead, you can use that, especially if you have a lot of rows of data. You may use that error file to correct your report, but you have to remember before you save it and re-upload it to delete column AE completely. So if you accidentally upload your report with column AE left on it, you might get this message, or you may get a message saying that you've uploaded an invalid template. Another reason you might get this general error message is that your description exceeds the 150 character spaces. So you can kind of glance through and see, oh, that looks a little bit long. You can check that in Word. If it is too long, you can just shorten it. Another reason you might get this general error message, dollar symbols. Do not use the dollar symbols on the sales report. The system does not like it. And again, maybe the original template got modified. Sometimes I've seen where rows have been hidden. Maybe you hid them for a reason so that you could fill out some information quickly. Just remember to unhide those rows. If rows got hidden before, I've seen where people forgot to unhide them and fill in stuff. These are just some of the most common reasons why you might get that general error. And obviously you can always reach out to me for assistance if you can't figure that out. Next slide, please. So like we just talked about this before, the error column. This is an example of the other error message that you might get. It says the application does not recognize the uploaded VSRs template as a valid cooperative template. Again, just go check and see if you re-uploaded an error file and left that column AE on there or not. If you did, just delete column AE, save it, and re-upload. If you still can't figure it out, try a fresh template or just reach out to me. Next slide, please. So reporting 0 sales is the easiest thing to do. All you need to do is fill in cells B1, which is your vendor name, B2, which is your contract number, and B3 is the sales report submitted reporting month, which would be for March, would be 2023-03. That's it. That's all you need to do. Do not fill out anything. Do not put anything in rows 5 or below. Don't say this is a 0 sales report. Nothing, because if you have data in any other field aside from B1, B2, and B3, it's not going to load. So when you get ready to load it, there is a checkbox that says this is a 0 sales report. So make sure you check that box before you hit submit. If you need to report credits or you find that something you reported in a previous month was wrong, my recommendation is to go ahead and reach out to me so that we can discuss what it is that you're needing to correct and make sure that we get it done properly so that all of the information is recorded as it should be. It will tell you in the instructions examples tab, if you need to do a negative, that you would only make the quantity and the extended price a negative, the unit stays a positive number. But I want to make sure that if you have any of these situations come up where you need to report a credit, you need to report some past sales, you need to make any corrections to something that you already did a couple of months ago, reach out to me so that we can just generally discuss it on the phone real quickly. It doesn't take too long to figure out, what happened, what needs to be changed, etc. Next slide, please. So if you forgot to report a sale, and it does happen, you have the ability to report past sales. Once we've closed a reporting period, we cannot go back and change that past report. So anything that needs to be done has to be done on the current report that is being uploaded. You can list rows of sales and you can identify the actual month that they should have been uploaded in the sales period and with that invoice date. Once you do that, if everything on that report is correct and it doesn't error, what you want, your goal is for your report to go to pending user action status. And you would be able to go back out then to your history screen. And there is going to be, you'll scroll all the way to the right and there'll be an error file. You don't need that for pending user action most often. Or there's going to be an edit online link and you're going to go and you're going to click edit online. Beneath in the next picture shows you there is a section where it says customer name 0, previous sales periods 1, others 2. So in the edit online tool, it's telling you that you've got a previous sales period and then you've got a couple other things that you can fix online. So for the previous sales period, you're going to click that circle and you're going to hit go. And the key to the edit online tool is the change edit error column right there. So below that blue button where it says go and it says change/edit error, you're going to double click on that word multiple and it's going to bring a pop-up box to you and it's going to say the uploaded report includes past sales from and it will tell you like which month it's from. did you mean to do this is what it's asking. It's making sure that you didn't make a typo. So if you truly meant to report some past sales, you're going to click the button that says yes. If you have a couple other things to fix, so in this example, I would think that others, probably a couple of brand names might be needed to be fixed. You will use that same way. You're going to double click in the cell below change edit error, and it's going to either give you a search menu, a pop-up box, etc., and guide you through fixing that. Once all of your issues have been fixed in the online edit tool, you're going to click revalidate. It's going to go back to a submitted status. And then after everything goes back through the system, it should go to accepted. Again, there's instructions on each one of these scenarios in the manual, or just reach out to me. I can walk you through it. No, not a problem. Next slide, please. So really, really important that you note that anytime you need assistance with your sales report, you've got template issues, resolving errors, just send an email to ict.sales@dir.texas.gov, and please always include your contract number. If you need assistance with logging in, just send an email to vsr.support@dir.texas.gov. Login errors, password issues, they can help you resolve that. Communication is key, and I mean this. If you upload a report and your report is rejected and you walk away and all of a sudden it's the 16th or the 17th, you're late. But if you reached out to me before the 15th, if there's some other extenuating circumstance, if the issue is our fault, we're going to make sure that you're not noted as late, but you need to communicate with us. So always send an email when you need assistance so that we can have a note of it and make sure that we can help you timely. Next slide, please. And I believe I'm going to turn this back over to Tony.
Thanks, Ann. So getting back into text ramp reporting, I'm not 100% sure if the those that are online have contracts that may be ramp certified, but our co-op template does have a ramp reporting column on it. That's a simple yes, no, I believe, or maybe it's just yes. If you need more information on what the ramp program is, go to our website at dir.texas.gov/textramp. This is for enhanced security for a lot of our cloud products. So go to our website if you have additional questions. Next slide. Okay, so admin fees. We are in the final stretch of our second part. So admin fees. Your final admin fees are determined based on the total dollar value of eligible sales reported in your VSR and the admin fee percentage that's listed on your contract or contracts. Again, when we take your report will have all of your sales, but we will review it for eligibility as well. So your total sales may actually be lower than what you had reported. If you have a contract with multiple admin fees, that will be determined by the order date. So if you end up reporting for multiple months and your admin fee changes between say fiscal years or between periods, those are all determined by that order date. The vendor contract manager and the person that uploaded the report will receive that month close email between the 1st and the 10th of that month following the month of submission for your VSR. Your month close email will include your total admin fees, and that will be your admin fees plus any late fees that may be associated to your contract. So be sure to review that email closely. Admin fees are due by the 25th of the month following the month of the submission. So after you get that email between the 1st and the 10th, that payment is due by the 25th. Next slide. So here we're showing how that admin fee is calculated. Your total extended price, you can, if you're in the VSR portal, you can check that on your history screen to verify that that's correct. Your estimated admin fee, that's the one when you click upload and you get that accepted admin fee status, that will be based on what you had uploaded. That may not be the final admin fee. What you'll see there is your final admin fee will show what after ineligible sales are removed, and that is the actual amount that you have to pay. If you have any questions, again, submit to either your contract manager or to ict.saleswithann, and they can tell you which customers were deemed ineligible. If the customer's name was incorrect, and those sales can be reported on the next month's report as past sales with the correct customer name. Okay, next slide. VSR reporting or admin fee payment example. So in an example of your submitting reporting month, if we're talking about March sales, again, your March 2023 sales will have anything that has an invoice date in the month of March to a customer. In April, you will submit your VSR with all March invoices. That will be between April 1st and the 15th of the month in the VSR portal. And then you will get an estimated admin fee on your screen. That does not give you authorization to send payment. It's really important to not send payments. It has a ripple effect in our system if we get payments that are made before any months are closed. So we ask that you pay attention and do not pay once you see that estimated admin fee. That's really just for your purposes to make sure that that it matches up with what you uploaded or think that you uploaded. And in this example, in the month of May, you will get that close email. Typically between the 1st and the 10th of the month. It can go as late as the 14th day of the month. And it will tell you what your final admin fees are plus any of those late fees. And then again, by May 25th, you can have that payment sent by the 25th. Next slide. This is what that reporting, that closed email will look like, the one with your final admin fee. It will come from vsrapp@dir.texas.gov. It is an automated email. It'll tell you what that reporting period is, what contract it's associated with. For each contract, you're going to get a close report email. It'll tell you what your final admin fee is and what any late fees are and what that total amount is owed to DIR. So be sure to make sure that you can receive emails from that email address there. Next slide. So remitting payments, again, don't submit anything until you get that closed month email. You can submit via ACH payment or by check. Again, ACH payment is highly recommended for speed, accuracy, and the information that you can include on your payments. If you're paying by either ACH or check, we do ask that you submit a remittance form to our email at adminfee@dir.texas.gov. We ask that you include things like the reporting month, which contracts you have, and the vendors, and how to apply your payment. Next slide. If you need to set up ACH payment, right there is a URL on our website that has an ACH authorization form. Once you fill that out, you can send that back to adminfee@dir.texas.gov, and our team will work on that and then submit back to you your account number and information. That should be done within 10 business days. At that point, you're able to submit payments through your bank payment portal. Again, we ask that you email that remittance form to us and to contact adminfee@dir.texas.gov if you have any issues with setting up your ACH payments. Next slide. If you have to pay by check, or if you prefer to pay by check, we ask that on the memo line that you include contract numbers. That helps our finance team to match up your payments with your contracts. You are allowed to combine multiple admin fees. If you have multiple contracts, you can do that either on check or ACH. We just ask that you include a breakdown of how to apply those admin fees on that remittance form. If you need to send checks, the regular address is there at Texas Department of Information Resources, attention accounts payable at P.O. Box 12728 in Austin, Texas. If you have expedited payments, things that need to be sent overnight, for example, you will send it to 300 West 15th Street, Suite 1300. That is our physical address. Next slide. So that remittance form, the one that you can download online, it will have basic information as to what your company's name is, who is a contact, phone, email, the month of sales that you're reporting. If you're either sending payment via ACH or check, we ask if you're sending it by check to include that check number. That helps to match things up. And then line by line, you can line out how you want your payments to be applied. If there are multiple contracts, you can state it here. Next slide. And again, this is for your reference. I would either take a screenshot of this or keep this handy. But if you have any contracts, questions about your contract, make sure to go online and check to see who your contract manager that's assigned to your contract. They'll help you out with anything about account setups, removing or adding contacts to the VSR portal, and making sure that the brands and resellers listed on your contract are correct. If you have any questions about your VSR reporting, you can contact Ann at ict.sales@dir.texas.gov. She'll help you out with resolving any errors or template issues that you may see. She just asked that you include your contract number in the email subject line so that she can help expedite those requests. Admin fee and ACH payment questions, send that off to adminfee@dir.texas.gov. Again, they'll help you out with either setting up your account or determining your fees. If you have any questions about logging into the portal, if you get locked out or if you don't remember your password, things like that, you can send an email to vsr.support@dir.texas.gov. Okay, next slide. And with that, I'll open up the floor for any questions from our audience.
Tony, it looks like we currently have 3 questions right now in the Q&A. Do you want me to read those off?
Sure.
Okay, so the first one we have says, can we submit the progress assessment report from the VSR portal as well, or is the PAR and VSR the same report?
This is Teresa. I can help with that, Tony. The PAR assessment report, our progress assessment report it's completely different, completely separate from your vendor sales report. Your vendor sales report is due monthly, whether you had sales or not. Your progress assessment report is going to be if you have an open PO that you're going to be submitting those PAR forms to your customer and to the hub office. And the hub office can always assist you with that and give you direction.
Great, thank you, Teresa. Tony, did you have anything to add to that?
No, I was going to say exactly that.
Okay. The next question is, what has to be listed on a PO from a customer for us to know that it is a DIR PO? So if a PO comes in without our contract number, we do not have to report it?
This is Ari. I can answer that question.
Yeah.
Yes, you still have to report it. The customer or the agency might forget to put it on their PO, but they have it referenced somewhere in their system. So as a courtesy, as a vendor, you should remind them to put the DIR PO number on the purchase order. The other thing is that when they issue the PO to you, it is go to the centralized system of the state agency, which is CAP. You will get paid based upon that CAPs, and it should be referenced somewhere on that system or in their documentation. They might be forgetting to put on the DIR number. However, you still have to report it if you sell under DIR contract. Does that answer your questions?
Well, and I would recommend that if you did get a purchase order without the contract number on it, that you reach back out to that customer immediately and have them remedy that so that for audit purposes, the contract number is on the purchase order.
Absolutely.
They
Thank
can
you, Ann.
correct, yeah, they can correct that and send you an updated PO.
Okay, at this time, I'm not seeing any other questions in the Q&A panel. So if there are no further questions, I believe that will wrap up our presentation for today. DIR wants to thank you for attending. Again, if you have any questions, be sure to reach out to us and let us know. We're happy to help you along the way. Thank you.